part 5 of what I think is probably going to be 6 parts of what is my full collection. There's still a lot of stuff. I keep finding stuff as I'm moving things around and things like that. So there's a lot of outlier stuff at the very end of this. So yeah, guys, here comes part 5. Nothing after the intro. Just jumping right into my cold steel knife collection. I broke it up into groups. I figured that made more sense. So here we go. Let's jump into the cold steels and then some outliers, and I will see you guys at the end for just a little to be continued. So turn down the volume. Here comes a little bit of music. In the intro, this is part 5, and so I decided to break this up into just common sense groupings. So as I was looking at what was left, I realized I had not gotten any of my cold steel knives. So the first thing we're going to look at is my collection of cold steel knives I currently have. Matter of fact, there's one knife that I'm pretty sure is around this house somewhere that you have never seen. I think I still have an American Lawman somewhere in a box. It was in its original box. I was going to sell it. At any rate, this is the cold steel Tielight. These were done in AUS 8 originally. The one I have this one was made in Taiwan. I have the Grivery one, and this is the 4-inch blade, I believe. They have a 4 and a 6-inch. The 6-inch is too big. Now this knife grew on me. I had it for a while and I didn't really carry it. And then it started to grow on me because I really got to where I like the action. I like the way it feels in pocket. It does wave. These little quillions will wave it off the pocket, but you have multiple ways that you can deploy. You can even flip it with a little bit of wrist. You can flip it with the quillion. Can you do it without? Not quite. Thumb stud. And like I said, it will wave off the pocket. These were relatively well done. It's not a great knife, but I mean, for what you were paying, you got one of the strongest liner locks on the market. This was one of the first knives I ever saw that had a really good liner lock. I added a choil, but these were fun. These were that Mall Ninja-esque style. It looks like a switchblade. It looks like what you would see coming out of an Italian switchblade, but it's not. It's more the stiletto style. But these are nice and they do carry well. So there you go. Cold steel Tielight. So these videos are fun because I am getting to mess with knives that I own that I don't mess with very often. They actually just sit somewhere. So this is the cold steel Spartan. This is a beast, guys. I did a video about this a long time ago. I actually carried this, like every day carried this knife, because it actually carries pretty well. So these were massive, great big recurve blade. It's got the handle like you'd see on a Greek sword. But what that gives you is it's a really ergonomic grip, but that knife's not coming out of your hand. That is one of the most solid grips I've ever had in a knife. It's a little tight back towards the pinky for me when I get my whole hand in there. It's a little tight because I do have really big hands. This is a knife that I would put up against a lot of fixed blades. It does have the triad lock in it. This one, I had an AK-47. I had a American Lawman. They all had the triad lock. You cannot go wrong with that. This is in AUS 8. This was made in Taiwan. This is their cold steel Spartan with the Grivery handles. And I mean, you want to talk about a knife that you can carry in your pocket, but have the use of a fixed blade. And as a camp knife, it does so many different roles. And it's just executed really well. This waves off the pocket really well with that thumb disc, but it also, for as big as it is and with that strong back lock, triad lock, it still opens and closes relatively easily. It waves off the pocket really well. And just another great knife. I would never get rid of this. I actually carried this knife a lot. It goes in my pack for camping stuff. So there you go. the Cold Steel Spartan. So I know I already did the gifts, but this was a gift. This wasn't necessarily a gift to the channel. This was a gift to me from a friend of mine. This is the Cold Steel Voyager. It's the first I ever owned a Voyager. I do like this knife. It just has a couple little things that bother me, the way it aligns in my hand. And I'm not a fan of the way the handle feels in hand, but it is a very secure handle. Big, great big American Tonto. You can see that there's, yeah, there was some grind issues with this that I've resolved. But this was in CTS BD1. CTS BD1 is a steel that I had never gotten to use before. I'm not such a big fan of the steel. It's got to have a specific edge to do what you want. I have it now to where it's just where I want it. But this is another knife that you can really beat on these knives. You're not going to go wrong. This Voyager has got that triad lock, the same similar style of really secure grip. My only issue is it kind of gets out of alignment with the cut for me. I like a knife to line straight up with my thumb, and this is off a little bit. I can address that. The only issue I have with this is it's a little long for how narrow, it's not as broad. And I think that's my biggest issue. It's almost too big for what I typically would carry, and I'm not a big fan of that deep curve in there. It just kind of, like I said, aligns my hand differently, but executed really well, cuts really well. This is a cardboard eating beast, hollow and flat American style Tonto that, it's hard to find a poorly executed American style Tonto from Cold Steel, considering they were the ones that really, really brought it to the marketplace. So there you go, the Cold Steel Voyager. Guys, the next knife you've already seen a couple times. This, it's got paint and stuff on it. It gets carried a lot. Goes on a zipper pull this time of year. It actually just came off of a jacket because it's only in the 60s today here at my place. This is the Cold Steel Super Edge. I've said it so many times. This is probably the best small all-around fixed blade. This thing is a champ. I've owned 3 of these now at this point. You can't go wrong with one of these. They are amazing. They're great for opening packages, tearing through stuff. And if something happens to it, really, the fact is they're like 20 bucks. There's another small one that you guys saw before. I meant to put it in this part, but I did it earlier. And that's the Urban Pal, the Mini Pal that I got from my daughter. It's another little micro fixed blade. And that's what these were. Tiny little micro fixed blades, but you still, you get a lot of work out of this thing. And you're talking 4 inches, 4 1/4, 4 1/2-ish overall. Awesome. These things are great. The serrations, as you can see, I've already had to sharpen them. I cut into some wire by accident. So Cold Steel Super Edge, always a good recommendation. You can pick them up fairly easily, fairly cheap. There you go. Cold Steel Super Edge. Guys, this would have to be, I believe this is the first Cold Steel I ever owned. This is the Scottish Spike. As you can see, it's been resharpened, reprofiled a couple times. And I carried this on my gear. I carried it as a neck knife. This was the Scottish Spike. They still have the Spike series, but they're done completely different. Now they're done with a Kydex. This is done with a wrapped, and it's a glued on wrap. But this gives you really good grip. It's got some jimping and things like that. Like I said, the only thing I wish they'd done was some indexing somewhere on this so that you knew which side was which. Came with a Securex sheath. This is not like a daily use knife. This is a grab and go backup tool for self-defense. Basically, this has one purpose. This is basically like a prison shank, but it is sharp and it does carry well. And for what it was designed for, it's just fine for that. So there you go. The Cold Steel Scottish Spike, discontinued style. Like I said, they still make the spikes, I believe, but they're done completely differently. So now we're going to get into, the rest of these are all fixed blades, guys. So we're going to get into some bigger and better and beefier stuff as we go. All right, guys, so this is the second Cold Steel push dagger I had. I had the 2-sided version. So this is the Safemaker. I had the Peacekeeper. So this is the Safemaker 1. This one is different. The one I had was, the other one I had was a double-edged, but it was not as well executed as this. This one does have that hollowed out area there. These things are well made, but it's another one of those, It's another one of those items that pushes that gray line between what is a, I don't like saying it, but because it's the W word, what's a weapon and what's a tool. This gets into that hazy area, but these are executed really well. Now, like I said, I had the Peacekeeper 2, which was the medium sizes. The Peacekeeper came in like 3 sizes. This came in 2. The 1 and 2. The Peacekeeper 2 is about this size. This is the Safemaker 2, which is the larger of the 2. But like I said, really well executed, thoughtful design. It's nice and round in this area here where the rubberized handle comes up over. I think they call that their Cratex handles that they have on them. But for what it is, for just a push dagger, it is incredibly well executed, well ground, and you just kind of can't go wrong. They make some of the best push daggers on the market. So there it is. The Cold Steel Safemaker 1. All right, guys, let me correct my statement when I said the Scottish Spike. I forgot. This was an issued knife. This is an old Cold Steel SRK, still done, made in USA, right there. Carbon V steel, made in USA, Cold Steel SRK. This has been through the mill. I carried this. I've let people borrow this to carry it. It was issued to me. And I mean, it has been carried and used and cut things and pried on things. You cannot break this knife. This knife is a beast. I would go as far as to say this is the closest I've ever had a knife that I could say it would be almost indestructible. I pried doors open on things. I pried stuff loose with it. And I know that's one of those things that makes people's skin crawl. But on top of that, that carbon V steel is so incredibly sharp. Now, this was used by a friend of mine downrange. He used a pull through. You can see the chatter marks where it's been on a pull through. This needs a good hand sharpening. There's some dinking of the tip. But yeah, as far as a military issue item, I think this is probably the best. Still not super great as far as functionality, but like if you just need something that you're gonna thrash on and beat on, this is the one. So Cold Steel SRK, I wanna say this was early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, right here. All right, guys, so these next 2 knives are incredibly good high-end showings from Cold Steel. This is the older of the 2. I've had this one a little bit longer than the others. This is the Cold Steel Sizu. This is definitely a discontinued, super fancy. This is done in the Sanmai 3 construction. This is a Sizu. Now I did not polish this. This came like this, and I cut something that ate out the black ink or black markings on it. So this is kind of their version of a puku. Now I know it's not a true puku. It's done a little bit differently. But this is a Sanmai 3 knife. This thing is, for as weird as the handle and everything looks, super comfortable in hand. This is a very good outdoor knife. Carries well, just sharp as you would ever want a knife. And it's a really good blade shape, easy to carry, easy to deal with. And it's just executed really well. Silver nickel bolsters, micarta scales, good weight forward on it. And so there you go, the Cold Steel Sizu. This was one that I saw, fell in love with. I had pukus before, and I just really liked it. And you can see that this actually has gotten used a bit. It's been sharpened, it's been used, but this is a really, really stellar knife. Beautiful leather sheath. These were made in Japan. The Cold Steel Japan stuff was just impeccable, just stellar. So there you go, the Cold Steel Sizu fixed blade in Sanmai 3. I'm gonna say, so this is one of my prized possessions, which is weird for a guy that everyone just always says that I hate Cold Steel. This is the Cold Steel Pendleton Custom Classic fixed blade. Now, I have not seen one of the newer ones, so I don't know how well they're executing, but these, when I got this one, my goodness, tapered tang, beautiful micarta scales with red linen micarta liners. Also done in Sanmai, so thick, such a thick, beefy knife, but then they did a nice hollow. It transitions down so well into that sand my blade. This is, I can honestly say, and I'm going to say it out loud, this is probably the best outdoor fixed blade I've ever owned. This thing does exactly what it's supposed to do so well. I've never gotten to skin an animal with it, but for as far as meat processing and things like that and cutting game, I have carried this hunting. This thing does an incredible job, but I haven't ever skinned out like a large animal. I have processed like small game, like rabbits and squirrels and things like that with it. Nice, big, long, heavy handle with the thinner blade that gives you such good control. It's not done just as a skinner. It's just a general outdoor hunting knife, but it is insane how good this is. And I mean, at the price point, this was, at the time, this was the upper end of what I would get at the time. This was one of my first higher end knives. These were about $400, but like I said, you can see tapered tang, micarta, just all the bolsters and things are beautifully executed. Sanmai 3 construction, you can see that you've got that there. Made in Japan. This actually, that choil, I can actually get up on it for a little bit of extra control if I need to. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful knife. One of my prized possessions. Like I said, I don't know if they're the same. I don't know if they're executed the same now, but I would never get rid of this. I love it. So coming from a guy that everybody seems to think hates cold steel, that's saying a lot right there. So there you go. The Cold Steel Pendleton Classic, or Pendleton Custom Classic. So that's the end of my cold steel knife, guys. Let's turn this around and do some final thoughts and say goodbye. I know I said at the end of the last one that we were going to stop, but there's some knives that just kind of don't fit into a category. So we're going to look at a couple of small, just little outlier knives. They're all folders. So these are my Opnels. I have two. This one was a gift from a subscriber that he had modded out, and I apologize to you, sir. I cannot remember who sent it to me, but the blade has been patinaed. So this is, I don't even remember what size this is. So this is an Opnel that somebody had went and modified, done some staining of the scales and refinishing, added some finger choils, did some file work on the spine, and then just, I guess, kind of heat colored the blade. This actually is here at the house. It sits in a box, and in the move, I kind of forgot, but I have my other Opnel, and I modified mine a little bit too. I took a little bit of material here off the back, but this gets, as you can see, both of these are great, like workhorse knives, small little camp knives. You can't go wrong with the Opnel. The carbon steel, this one needs sharpened. This gets used to cut cardboard and things like that. So nice little handy knives, and the fact is they don't break the bank. They actually do lock. They lock closed and they lock open. So Opnel knives are really nice. I've had several of them over the years. So there you go. The Opnel Knives. So this next knife is another knife that was a gift to the channel. This is a Rat 1, Ontario Knife and Tool Rat 1. I have modified this. It's got a ceramic coating on the blade just because it was rusting, and I decided since the green scales, I'd go Christmas colors. Why not go Christmas colors with the pocket clips? So these are great knives. I don't seem to love it near as much as Mr. Shabazz does. He and I have talked about it. It's a solid knife, but it's still just not one of those knives that I'd have to say is just one of those, is it a gem? That's what I said in the video. I'm not 100% sure. I will say that these are very good knives for work knives. It's something that you can replace fairly easy. They're a relatively budget. Mine is in D2, but I mean, it's just nylon scales. They run on Teflon washers. They've got just your generic pocket clips. So these are okay, good budget knives, good hard work knives. I just am not as in love with them as other people are. So there you go, the Ontario Rat 1. So this next one's kind of an interesting story. It came in from a customer for sharpening. He refused to pay me. And so the knife is still here. This is and I do love this knife a lot. This is an old timer. This is their Big Bear Trapper. It's a Schrade. I've had it for a while, and it's got some rust and stuff on it, but this is a really functional, nice little folding knife, more of your slip joint or friction folder kind of a knife. This is an old timer. I'm trying to see where it says, yeah, they're made in China. So this is the 960T, just a double-bladed trapper. This one has small set of tweezers. They're not very good tweezers. And then a pick of some sorts. I don't know if this is meant to be a toothpick or what, but it gets used a lot just for scraping stuff. As you can see, rusty. It spends time in the pocket, so things are rusty. But yeah, there's the Big Bear Trapper by Old Timer. And this is, like I said, the only reason this is here is customer sent it in for sharpening and then refused to pay me when I told him how much it was going to be for 2 blades, even though we had set it out in front. So if you're watching, you know who you are. You still owe me 50 bucks. So like I said, little outliers that you find when you've got this many knives, it gets hard. So this is an old Camillus, 1997. That's not the year of manufacture. It's the model name. They have a 1992. Those are how they mark their military ones. This is basically a United States Army knife. So you have a Swiss Army knife. This is the US version. This is the US Army knife. So it comes with a leather awl or a leather punch, can opener, bottle opener, and flathead screwdriver. So these are really simple. These were just, you know, stamped blades, stamped scales, pinned construction with a little loop. But I've had probably, over the years of being in the military, I've probably had 8 or 9 of these. They're not bad little knives. That's why I still have one. They do come in handy to have. They're nice to stick in a pack. You can hook a ring to it and things like that. So there you go. The Camillus US Army knife. There you go, guys. Here's another quick one. This is one that came in. This was a gift to my daughter. This is actually my daughter's knife, but it's in our collection. We have 2 of these. I just can't find mine, so grab this one. This is the Reich Knives Hummingbird. I mentioned this in a video I shot a day or so ago. I shot it over the weekend about the hoverwing. This is something that Reich Knife did, the Reich Hummingbird. They did this just to show off what they can do. This is actually runs on bearings. And this thing is tiny, guys. These things were tiny. They came with a nice chain, a nice little, let me see if I can get it the right way. Nice little slip that it goes in. This is a very nice chain that's on these. You can wear it around your neck. The anodizing on these are beautiful. They did them in Damasteel. So the first knife I ever owned in Damasteel was actually this tiny miniature Reich Hummingbird. Titanium construction. I mean, even has a pocket clip, and they're functional. I mean, it actually flips. It actually flips, and it's tiny. So there you go, the Reich Hummingbird, just the tiniest little knife you'd ever want to see. But they are beautiful, and they're well executed and well done. So, all right, guys, there you go. There's that. So guys, this one, I'm just going to toss it in real quick. You already saw the other one. This one was my father's. This one is still original. This one was my father's NTAC, Farmforge NTAC. And so it needs cleaned up. It needs sharpened. It needs a little bit of love. But this was a retirement gift to my father. I own one, and now this one is my daughter's. It has its own little case. This belonged to my father. Like I said, I got it for him as a retirement gift. So real quick, I just wanted to toss it in since I had it. Guys, 3 more knives, and I'm only going to say 3 because I'm not going to, I have literally owned probably 20 of these knives. So I have multiple different Swiss Army knives. This is my personal one. My daughter has one. I have a big thick camp one, but this is just my little tinker Swiss Army knife. This actually, I would say is my favorite multi-tool because technically it's a multi-tool. But yeah, these things are great. They're always nice to have. They come in, you'd be surprised how often they come in handy. You got the 2 blades. Everybody knows what these are. You got the 2 screwdrivers, flatheads, and then a Phillips on the back, can opener, bottle opener. This one has a pair of scissors. And then, you know, they always have interesting stuff. You come in different sizes. So these are always great to have around. I typically have one in the car. There's one in my car. There's one in my backpack. There's one in my desk. They're literally everywhere. So my daughter even has a couple. So, yep, Swiss Army knives, can't go wrong. Always have one in your collection. Next one's a unique one. This is an old case Hobo. Now, what these were a folding set of cutlery. You have a spoon. You have a fork. And you have a knife. And so in one place to go camping, you have all your silverware. You have a knife, a fork, and this is not a bad little knife. You have a knife, a fork, and a spoon. They latch into each other. These are not cheap either. They're really well made. This is one of their things. So this goes on there and then that locks in. That's locked on. You put that back in here, lock it on, and you've got that full set of disassemblable. And then I got this from an old dude that had it in his toolbox wrapped up, and he was like, it was in the box and it wrapped up a little bit, and he was like, oh yeah, I got that, and I was interested in it. I was like, I'll buy that from you, and he sold it to me. And then I went online and I bought the leather sheath for it. So the case Hobo, these things have been around for a long time. They are, I used to use this. This was my silverware at the office. Literally, when I worked in an office, I kept this at my desk, and this was my silverware for salads and lunch and things like that. So case Hobo, really, really, really handy piece of kit. Guys, the last knife we're gonna throw in these little outliers, this is an actual Hiko Nokami. This is made by the one gentleman of the guild that is still around doing it. He makes these by hand. He is old. I picked up a handful of these when I was in Japan as gifts for friends. There's a handful of these that are out there. These are just the most basic of folding knife, but they are so insanely well designed for cutting. These are used, like my father-in-law, my daughter's grandfather said that like when he was a kid, everybody had one of these in their desk growing up. At school, they carried it with them through school to sharpen pencils. He has a ton of these that he used on job sites for, you know, sharpening pencils and cutting things. And it's just something you can put in a little pocket slip, which my friend Robert Bodiger, back in the day when we used to hang out when he was still here in San Diego, made me a slip for it so I could carry it. So these are really cool. And there's only, like, you can get knives that look almost identical to this, but there's only one that's going to come with these specific markings. And it's done by one old guy who is the last surviving member of the knife making guild that this was part of, that this design was. And you can look up the history of the Hiko Nokami online. But yeah, these things are they're just really interesting and cool. Nice little piece of history. And it's even in laminated steel, if you can believe that, guys. If you can believe it. I think this is Hitachi Super Gold or Hitachi Blue Steel. I can't remember which it is. But yeah, I've had this for a few years now. They're beautiful. They patina up, and it's just a little piece of history that you can put in your pocket. So guys, that's it. This is it. Let's turn this around and do some final thoughts. Just for the sake of consolidating as much stuff as possible, I decided to put all this stuff in one video. So let's turn this around and do some final thoughts and get you guys out of here. It's going to be a long video. That's part 5. I think there's probably going to be one more, maybe 2 at the most. But then I get back into the fast 5s. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this. I'm not going to pontificate a lot. I do it in all the other videos, but you know what to do if you like to support the channel. Share it. The links down below, the join tab, the affiliate links, all that stuff, and the merchandise store. So, not to make it any longer, I love you guys. Keep it clean in the comment section. I'll see you next time.